college football playoff. I'm excited, whether it's Tennessee, Nebraska, UCLA, whatever team we covered, that this is actually happening. I like the way that you have to continue to play hard at the end of the season to either get the home game or get the bye. I think the way they've got it set up, and I'm one that listen. I'll throw dispersions at college football and the way they run it a lot, but I like this system. So I'll ask you both before we get to Caleb's breakdown of how it helps the balls. Do you like the system, guys, of how you've got the buys and you've got the home games? Do you like all that?
I mean, it's if you're gonna do it, that's the way to do it. Do I like the 12 team playoff? I think it's a little much. I thought the 4 team was a little much, but if you're gonna do it, that's the way to do it. However, if you look at college football right now, you can very much see that it's headed to the NFL. Like it's gonna be pretty much an exact replica of the NFL by the time it's all done.
I agree with a lot of that. And I think what you're going to see, at least I hope, Caleb, is that you're going to see some of these teams because of the money that will be brought in. I think you're going to see some of these teams be able to close the gap a little bit between basically the Georgias and the Alabamas of the world, the two teams that have dominated over the past decade. I think you're going to see them be able to close the gap because there's going to be more TV money for the college football playoff. Now I'm talking 5, 10 years down the line. I hope that's the case. I hope it's not a case where we go into a 12-team playoff saying, Georgia's going to win this thing, and they do. It may be that way in the first couple of years, but I don't think it's going to be that way long term. So, Caleb, why does this help the Vols year number one, which would be 2024?
So the reason this helps the Vols, and this is a big deal that it moved up. It doesn't matter that it didn't move up to 2023, and the reason is, I'm going to say this up front now, barring some miracle, I don't think Tennessee is going to be the same team next year. I think next year is going to be a bit of a transition year. They lose Hendon Hooker, but they don't just lose Hendon Hooker. They've got a lot of rebuilding to do on their offensive line. They lose some key defensive players. Defense already was an issue this past year, we all know, but the guys that really helped nullify it being an issue are going to be gone, which is Byron Young, Trayvon Flowers, and whatever you feel about them, Jeremy Banks. And so there's just going to be a big drop-off. On top of that, Tennessee football has to play Alabama and Florida on the road next year. They beat both by 1 score at home. I know, Dave, you're not. I'm still kind of a believer in Billy Napier as a program runner. So I think Florida's going to be a lot better next year. And then there's still Georgia on the slate. So, and their SEC West opponent is Texas A&M. I know Texas A&M struggled this year, but let's not pretend they don't have talent down there. And so I just don't see them winning 10 games again in the regular season next year. So 2023 is out. 2024 is their magic year. And I've been bullish on 2024 for a while. That's when Nico will have a year in the system. Taven Jackson, if he stays, will have had 2 years in the system. Heupel may have found another quarterback in the transfer portal. He'll have options to pick a really good quarterback by 2024. There will be a lot of guys back. Things are in place for them to be. They might not play a non-conference Power 5 foe in 2024 because remember, right, they had to cancel the series with Oklahoma, and I don't think they found a replacement in time. So the schedule is going to be really easy in 2024. And I think because of that, that was their year to have a magic run. Now, magic run, does that mean SEC championship or does that mean 10-2 like this year? We don't know, but with the playoff expanding to 12 teams, it doesn't really matter. What is true also is Texas and Oklahoma aren't joining the SEC until 2025. So 2024, they do have a better chance of winning the SEC, but as we've seen, because of the way the playoff is set up, and what I like is that's going to mean something. Winning the SEC, getting that first round bye is going to be a big deal. And if you don't get that first round bye, being able to play that first round at home is going to be a big deal. And that's why I'm actually a fan. That's why I've come around to your side, Dave, is that it's, people are complaining that it takes away from the regular season. I don't think it does. I mean, I think it involves more games. The 1 versus 2 big game matchups still matter because you have to win your conference to get a first round bye. And so I think about this year, look at the Tennessee schedule this year. If there was a 12-team playoff this year, the Alabama game still would have been a big deal. Alabama losing to Tennessee is why they aren't going to get a first round bye. Tennessee beating Alabama would be why they're in the playoff right now. So it's not like these regular season games aren't huge deals. It's just more teams will have regular season games that matter. So that's why I am a fan of the format overall. But yes, I think for Tennessee's sake, I think that 2024 is their magic year. You've set up a system now where the playoff is almost the baseline for them in 2024, and winning the SEC is still a possibility because, again, Texas and Oklahoma won't be there yet.
Well, and it may be sooner than that. I'm just going to throw that out there because if you look at 2023 schedule, I agree that's a rebuilding year, but you're looking at Virginia, that's a win. Austin Peay, that's a win. At Florida, and let me be real clear where I stand on Billy Napier. I think he is much like Butch Jones, and the same thing I said about him, not like Butch Jones, but I think he'll get Florida, Amanda, to 8 or 9 wins. I just don't know if he's going to get them to 10 or 11 like we heard so much at SEC Media Days. I don't know that he's going to make them an elite program, but I think he gets them very respectable, unlike this year. And then you have University of Texas San Antonio. That should be a win. South Carolina should be a win, but you know what happened this year. As you mentioned, Texas A&M, Alabama, you would think at Alabama, if you had to, chalk that up to a loss. In Kentucky, UConn, Missouri, Georgia, Vanderbilt. So if you look at that schedule, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to say a minimum of 7 wins. And I'm kind of flip-flopping South Carolina, Kentucky. I think they win one of those if we want to get into swing games already for next year. But the point I'm trying to make is that they will be right at that threshold because you have, and I agree with Caleb, 2024 is the year that you make a serious run because of the rebuilding at Tennessee. But Amanda, for right or wrong, it is going to change, like you mentioned, with the NFL. And you've got Washington at number 12 right now in the college football ranking. They have 2 losses. You've got Utah at number 11 with 3 losses. You've got Kansas State at 3 losses. So, if it were 2023, Tennessee could still make a run, but I certainly see Caleb's point. I think a lot of teams are going to be able to make a run into that 12-team playoff, and it's, I think, exciting for the sport. I understand you like the 2, and I certainly could go with you and make an argument for that. But I'm pretty fired up, to be honest with you, with the way they've set it up.
I mean, they've set it up exactly like they've set up the NFL, and that's fine because I think not everybody, but most college, fans wanted to see that. So I understand the need for 12 teams. It does bring in, and what you're going to hear from national media like Joe Klatt and Danny Cannell is an SEC bias that's not really there, but people will start to say that it's there because look at how many teams right now are in the top 12 in the SEC, and you have Tennessee with 2 losses, you have Alabama with 2 losses, you have Georgia undefeated. I'm not sure if there's another one, but there was LSU until they dropped it to A&M.
Yeah.
So
yeah, Georgia at 1, Alabama at 6, Tennessee at 7. And so those would be the 3. And to your point, the SEC commissioner said yesterday that he expected 3 teams to be in there and quite possibly 4 year in and year out. So you're right.
Yes. So we'll hear a lot about screaming about SEC bias. We will see a very long season, more than what we're used to seeing, because we did talk to the College Football Playoff Committee chairman, and he said that they will just extend the season to fit the 12 in there. Like, it won't be, we're going to cut out some, cupcake games, which I'm glad that they're not doing. But it won't be, hey, we're cutting these out. It's going to be, we're going to do a whole 12-game season. And then if you're the last team standing, you're playing 16 games, I think, total was what it ends up being.
Sounds right.
If you don't get a bye.
Yeah.
If you don't get a bye.
But that's including the conference championship.
But you would have to play the conference championship and not get a bye.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, wait, is that right? Because it's 13 including the conference championship.
Yeah, and if you don't get a bye, you play 3 playoff games.
Okay. So then, yes, 16. So we're looking at a NFL, season basically.
Well, that's just for 2 teams, though. I mean, I see what you're saying,
Correct.
but the vast majority of teams aren't going to play that many games. The thing that I find interesting is, what if you're between the 4th and 5th spot? Okay, so the 4th, your team gets a bye. So for your head saying, my team could use a bye and get healthy, right? But if you're the 5th team, you host a game and you want a game in your backyard. So as a fan, are you like, I'd rather be 5 and have an extra event to go tailgate at than win 4 and have a bye? Because at 4, you advance automatically because you have a bye, but then that's at a neutral site. So you don't have a home game.
These are going to be the arguments. I mean, this is how it's going to play out. People are going to constantly argue, well, we should be 4, we should be 5 for whatever reason. What's going to really be bad is in that first round of the playoff, if a star player gets hurt for somebody else, that's when you're going to start hearing the back and forth of, well, we should have been this number and we should have done, we shouldn't have even been playing. So why is this guy? It's the constant back and forth between people it's never going to stop. And
but isn't that part of what college football is built upon? Don't you still want some of that? You don't want it completely clean, cut and dry, do you?
I mean, it depends on who you are, I guess. I mean, some people would like it cut and dry, hence, the BCS and mathematical equations versus college football playoff, where it's a lot of, human interaction, human emotion going into making the decision. So a lot of people want it cut and dry. So it depends on who you are. But for people who think it's going to solve all of the problems, it's not going to solve all of the problems. People are going to come up with new problems and new issues. As far as Tennessee goes in 2024, or even, in next year, how many times have we seen a transfer quarterback come in and make a huge difference? Joe Burrow, 2019 for LSU. We've seen, I guess, Kyler Murray did it, Baker Mayfield. So it's
every Oklahoma quarterback under Lincoln Riley.
Exactly. So with that being said, if it's, if they can do it, what says that Tennessee can't do it? Bring in a walk-on or a transfer and then completely change the game next season.
Well, and I'm writing something, it'll be on offthehooksports.com later this afternoon, that I think Tennessee should go after a transfer quarterback despite Nico, despite Joe Milton. I think that's the direction they should go. So we'll have that up and we'll discuss that later in the program. But first, I do want to get to today's tough question. Today's tough question is brought to you by Zach England of Best and Brock, the best personal injury attorney in all of Chattanooga. And he can go head to head with those attorneys that represent insurance companies that want to give you as little money as possible. Remember Zach England. Zach's got your back. Zach England of Best and Brock. Today's tough question is now.
We do our research. Have you done your research?
We're working like heck.
Today's tough question. What's the real debate?
You sipping my Soupe Guadalupe?
Exclusively on Off the Hook Sports with Dave Hooker and Amanda LaFratta.
You drinking my sake, Kimosabi?
Oh my God.
All right, so we've got an opportunity for somebody on the message board to give us a who are you rooting against. I thought about who are you rooting for, but I'm going to go who are you rooting against this weekend in college football. Since the Vols aren't involved, let's just make it dastardly and mean. Who are you rooting against? Who do you want to see lose? Or I guess we could do both ways. Who do you want to see lose or win? You want to do that, Amanda?
How would you do that? Who would you want to see lose or win?
How about what if we did? What do you want to see happen this week? Because I want to see personally TCU win, and the reason is I want to see TCU win and see if they can play with the big boys. That to me is a good storyline. So Immortal One says Georgia lose. Be sure and hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. Big day as we top 1.5 thousand subscribers. That's pretty awesome. So hit the like button, hit subscribe, and you will be a part of the show and get your notifications on. What about we do that? What do you want to see happen this weekend? And my vote would be, I want to see TCU win. I think it's a good story. I like those guys that come out of nowhere. Do I think they could be a Cincinnati that steps into the college football playoff and gets hammered? Yes, I absolutely do think that could happen. However, I would like to see if they can stand toe-to-toe, especially since the offense is somewhat Josh Heupel-like. It's, very down the field. So
That gives us 8 options, so it would be difficult.
no, we'll just pick 4 options. The first 4 we get. So we got Georgia lose, Immortal 1, and that leaves you guys with 1 each. So I've got TCU win, Georgia lose. Amanda, Caleb, what do you want to see this weekend in terms of a win and a loss out of all the conference championship games?
I would like to see a Michigan loss.
See, I thought you were going to say Southern Cal because you didn't like Caleb.
I don't like Caleb Williams, but a Michigan loss would really turn things upside down. Because
you
if
see
you
the world burn, you're like the Joker.
Yeah, because if
I was thinking that too.
if you see Michigan take a loss to Purdue this weekend, that knocks Michigan probably, depending. That'll knock them down, but that'll knock Ohio State completely out.
Okay, so all right, I like it. So TCU win. That's Dave. I refer to myself in the third person only because
Yes,
it
you
helps
do.
me keep track of stuff. We've got Georgia lose on the message board. They Immortal 1 jumped to it, and we've got Michigan lose. All right, Caleb, you're the last one. You fill in the gap. That's today's tough question, and it's brought to you by Zach England of Best of Brock. Zach's got your back. What do you got?
So I'm going to just do the reverse of Amanda. I kind of want to see Michigan win, only because I feel like of all coaches in college or NFL right now, Jim Harbaugh has to be the most accomplished coach without a championship at either level. And I'm like, I kind of want to see him get one. His brother beat him in the Super Bowl in 2013. That was the Kaepernick Flacco Super Bowl. I think Jim Harbaugh deserves a national championship.
Golly, you talk about a bad matchup of quarterbacks. A Kaepernick Flacco Super Bowl. I sometimes forget that happened. Those are 2 bad quarterbacks. The best quarterback ever, by the way, Trent Dilfer, the best
I forgot about that
ever
one.
to win a Super Bowl, gets the got a college job, didn't he?
Yes,
Yeah,
he did.
the UAB job.
Yeah, he got the UAB job, which is a surprisingly good job. Wasn't he at Lipscomb Academy?
He was, and considering that UAB wasn't a program like 4 years ago.
Well, the problem with
whatever it
UAB is
was.
Bear Bryant Jr. is on the board of trustees at Alabama and constantly tries to undercut UAB out of sheer pettiness. And so there's stories. He led the charge to shut down the program in 2014. There was a spat between Bear Bryant and Bear Bryant Sr. and UAB back in the 80s. And Jr. has been all about settling scores with UAB since then.
All right.
So,
All right. So what are our 4 choices for today's tough question? As Amanda is always tweeting like a madman, mad woman.
So it's a Georgia loss, a TCU win, a Michigan loss, and a Michigan win. I guess we're leaving USC completely out of it.
I guess so. They got left out of it. We could always tweak later, but I think we're in a good spot now. Be sure and hit that like button. And if you haven't subscribed yet, we want to see you do that. So we're off and running, and an exciting poll question. Remind you that Zool Beer Company is the official craft beer of Off the Hook Sports. Go to xulbeer.com, xulbeer.com, and they've got a great location downtown. If you haven't been there, worldwide award-winning craft beer, and they have parking downtown, which is amazing. You don't see that a lot. So get out to Zool Beer Company, and we've got some plans to do a fun little get-together down there, and we're excited about that. We'll tell you more